To living down in LA, I heard that you paid the editor to change the color of Tupac hat and tank top from blue to red. Is that true?
Some of it is, but you got to realize a lot of people get bits and pieces of it, and then people talk, and once something's done, you have like 30 people talk or 100 people talk, and then a lot of people who may not been there have like tail ends of the tail. But what ended up happening on that video was this: when we did "Living Down in L.A." First of all, when we went in the studio to do the song, it was about bringing everybody in Los Angeles and the West Coast together. Because if you notice, it's like different hoods everywhere. You know, you got red over here, you got blue over there. We got every different gang you can think of in Los Angeles County. What I mean by that, like I said, you got the Pyrus and the Bloods, you got the Crips, you got the Southsiders, you got Asian gangs, you got the Samoans. You got a little bit of everybody, right? So the whole thing was it's going to be an anthem for the West Coast. So that's why the song was about living down in L.A. That's why I wanted to get a lowrider and have Pac ride around the city everywhere in real spots that people really hang out at. And when it came to the Pac wanted to get a L.A. hat. And so when Pac got the L.A. hat, he was like, man, what you think? He was like, I couldn't find one, a red L.A. hat, a burgundy L.A. hat. He said they only had the blue one. They didn't have no black one. They only had this blue one, right? I said, at the end of the day, it don't matter what color it is. I said, because everybody know where your heart is, and it's representing the whole West Coast. But I said, better yet, it'd be very, very special to change it up. So I said, we don't got to worry about it and try to go get find a hat to be different. I just do it through the video and the editing. And that's what happened. But if you look at that video, it's like everything was right on point. Even the fact that, it's not about bringing up old wounds, but at the same time, Pac hated Trey. So that's why at the end of the video, Pac said what he said. California Part 2 without, what he said about the nigga. But that's all it was. We always want to, at least I always want to be creative and do something different, because anything that came out on Death Row, it wasn't going to be normal. Anything Death Row stood for, it was pretty much the people's champ. Death Coast. What Death Row was like the West Coast label, but in every state we catered to the inner cities, we catered to the ghetto, we catered to the people. So it was very important that we did that. Every time we got up the bat, we're gonna hit a home run.
I heard you paid a lot to get that done.
Of course, sometimes I was the first person to do $1 million video and never recouped the money back from my artist, even though you're supposed to, but I didn't. Because if it ain't family, you'll be able to tell. See, one thing about having a label and having artists to get along with each other, you can tell how when you hear the music, when you hear people laughing, you hear people joking, when people hear them rapping, or you see them interacting in the videos, that's real. Now, if you make it fake, you can still have an artist in the video or do a song together, but it's not going to come across organic. It's not going to come off like they really care about each other. At one particular time, everybody on Death Row really loved each other. You got to remember one thing. Death Row was an artist label. You come to the studio, and time you get to the studio doors, I don't care if it's raining, I don't care if it's hot, I don't care if it's cold, you're going to see security at the door.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And the security is going to pat everybody down on the way in. And they're going to pat everybody down on the way out. Because the magic we make in that studio, we never want to have a situation where somebody take a cassette and sneak it out, and then your shit's being sold at the swap meet before it come out. But it was so much of a real artist label, a real family, that everything was separate. If you did security, you had your ass outside that door. You never was in that recording studio, especially with Pac. You know, Pac would be like, hold up, no popos in here, no police in here, no fake rental cops, no nothing. He said, shit, you know, everything, way Pac talked to you like he was making a song. You know, we smoking weed in here, we drinking in here, we got bitches in here. We don't need no motherfucking cops trying to report on us or try to, you know. So everything was always high level fun. And, you know, even with the people who work for Death Row, even if they didn't work for Death Row directly and they did security, majority everyone signed the NDAs where they couldn't do books and talk about it. I just never really enforced a lot of stuff because if somebody want to be a weirdo and make up lies, you don't got to, like, put them down. That's pretty soon the truth going to come out. So, you know, the only people know this who really went on to Death Row is the people who really know what went on with Death Row. That's it. They blame a homie who really didn't do it. And that started a lot of tension. That sort of like messed the East Side up a little bit because it have everybody choosing sides. But that information really came from, like, police. It used to be police, right? So now everybody figuring out what's going on where. And then as time went on, the guy who had the car, Bunchy Truck in his name, they went to the shop and got it fixed and gave it to a guy in San Diego named Tata. And everybody, what Bunchy Truck at? He had this truck waiting in San Diego. So now all the questions flying around. Then there was a guy that, back in the day, his brother, we're going to call his brother, you know, GS. And GS is a real homie. But GS is with the bullshit, too. And growing up on the East Side, stronger got stronger, the weak got weaker, you know, no matter what. So a guy whose father had a lot of influence as an authority, as an officer, was leaving his grandmother's house. So GS knocked on the door, snatched him out the motherfucking car, took his car. He was like, well, my grandmother's made this gumbo for me. So you can have the gumbo and poured it on him and took his car. His father had to come and intervene, like, y'all better make sure you bring my son's car back or it's going to be a problem. So he brought the son's car back, but no, they never, for his authorities, never forgot that, right? So when his brother had nothing to do with nothing, and they politicked him, lost his life, you know. So now everybody looking at everybody differently. When it's all said and done, it's come back to the same old ammo. A guy who have a lot of authority, who can whisper things in certain people ear on purpose to have everybody turn against each other. And how you can look at it, because when Buntry died, the whole East Side was at the funeral. Every person I know from different hoods, even some people, they didn't know Buntry, but they knew me. They said, well, that's his road dog, and everybody loved the hood. So everybody was at that funeral. Only people didn't go to the funeral is the ones that everybody says has something to do with Buntry's death. And if you got people that knew Buntry, their grandmother lived a few houses down from Buntry, their father would go and talk to Buntry's mother and their family every day, and the whole East Side come to the funeral, but you don't. So that's when all the whispers started. That's when everything started changing. That's when everybody got to start picking sides, because why would you not go to the funeral? So when people break stuff down and they want to prove their point, if you ask them why you didn't go to the funeral, they can't say they did, but they didn't. So if you break it down to James, everybody talk about Rock. I talked to Rock. Time Rock got on, you best believe he gonna holler at my bro, big bro, and say, hey, When he called, you call me. You know I need to talk to Simon. So therefore, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to help him. I'm going to do whatever I can because we all love each other. When Rock passed away, James can't go to those funerals. It's not picking on James. It's just go out and be who you are. Once you choose to wear a wire and send everybody to prison, I'm not going to pull it. Just stay out the way. Because when you do that, you're not welcome anymore. If somebody says something about me, one place can't nobody never be able to keep me from, and that's the east side. I'm going to go to the east side, that's as long as I'm breathing. And if somebody don't like it, we're going to deal with it on the spot. But at the same time, we both grow so much stronger, so much wiser than we used to be. It's never too late. You're not going to make everybody happy. But you can start off by making yourself happy. I'm going to put it to you like this. If you notice, James never been around us. James never worked for me. Even if you looked at the situation at my club, I had a club called Club 662. I didn't dislike James, but he wasn't part of our crew. James never had a death row chain. James never had a MOB ring or none of that. But
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
If James showed up to the club and James will hustle people outside. It'd be like over 100 people, sometimes 200 people at a time in line to get in Club 662. So James would go to people at the end of the line and say, look, give me $20, give me $10, and I'll take you to the front. And James would walk 2 people, 4 people. I don't give a fuck if it was 8 people. And they give him $20 or $100. James gonna walk them right to the front. They still got to pray to get in my club, but James gonna be able to walk them to the front. And then when security go and be like, hey, Mr. Knight, this guy over here keep walking people to the front, cutting the line. I think they're giving him money. I said, I know it. It's okay. Because if I didn't have nothing against James, if he make $50 or $100 or whatever he make, there ain't nothing out of my pocket. They ain't taking from my club. So he did that. But James never participated with us. He went out of town with us. He went to the studio with us. He wasn't none of those type of things. And for his butchery, you got to remember one thing. It's good for people to say, anybody get hurt on the east side is my fault. Anybody get a blessing, it's me. But as a man, I take accountability for everything I do, good or bad. It's going to be a thing where in Compton where you see people not having nice stuff, or nice cars, or nice jewelry. And then people say, well, that causes jealousy. Of course it causes jealousy. But if I want to give my homeboy a Rolex watch, I gave him a Rolex watch. Or whatever I choose to do. But people will talk about the so-called bad you do. But they real jealous of the good you do. Because for a long time, everybody get out of prison was going right back to prison. Because they had to go and try to steal or sell drugs or do something to put some money in their pocket. They don't talk about the fact that how many times I've been paid to go against $100,000 or $300,000 to stop people from getting life in prison or getting 30, 40 years in prison.